I didn't want to make this video, and I have pushed it down the line because of the challenges of what happened in my family last week. The content of this video is difficult because unfortunately it became a reality for my extended family. And I have nothing but sadness and great heartbreak over this. Um, this video is going to be about a very, very difficult topic, but it's so important to communicate the preciousness of life and the tools that I've learned around taking one's life and how I discovered how to have a will to live in spite of the consequences and the circumstances that I was experiencing. When I wanted to leave this planet by my own hand, I had made this vow that I was going to stick around. And the shame and the self-hatred and the self-loathing got so unbelievable painful, like I couldn't function anymore. I just wanted to die. And in the preparation phase of this, I left no note because I was so ashamed and I hated myself so much that this was the solution that I was going to take. This was the route I was going, and I could not be stopped on it. No one had to know. I didn't talk with anybody about it. I didn't say a word. I simply was so greatly suffering that I wanted it to end. And there's one thought that rang through my mind when I racked the shotgun at the time. One thought and one thought only. Who is going to find me? And that thought is what saved me. Saved my life right there. Because it broke me from this mystery that you get. It's like a spell you get under. At least I got under when I was about to engage in this activity that would remove me from the planet. And that spell and that idea is a direct assault on the value of me in the world. And what this did was it put me in the correct position for me to make a decision. Instead of coming at it from the perspective of, I'm having a terrible time, there's another solution. To me, there was no solution. This was it. And I think about how much blame and shame would have been passed on to those around me. And there's been a lot of thoughts around this in my life, like that I would never want anyone to think, such as, this is all my fault. That's the key one. This is all my fault. And then that's coupled with this other phrase, if I would have just done X, Y, Z. If I would have just picked up the phone at 3:37 in the morning on a Wednesday. If I would have just shown up one more time. If I would have just been there for them. All those different phrases come down to that idea. And I didn't want to put my family, in particular my siblings, through the incredible amount of sorrow and suffering that they would have gone through due to my decision. I've thought a lot about this since then, and unfortunately I've had a lot of my friends pass away, and I think back through all of these things and the tremendous guilt and shame I had because I didn't do X, Y, Z. And, it's really linked as an idea to the same thing I always felt in my family. If I would just do this, I'd be worthy of love. If I just do whatever, sharpen the pencil for 32 seconds instead of for 36, I wouldn't get yelled at. There was always this desire to gain the approval and have some absurdly arbitrary thing that I could have done to change an outcome. And unfortunately, in life, I've had to come to terms with this idea that I don't get to change outcomes. I only get to change my own behaviors. And other people's decisions are not my responsibility. And I can do my best in this life to love people well, but ultimately, I can't decide and choose what's right for them. I think that's what's terrifying about life, is when you have situations that people end up deciding that I don't want to be here anymore. It puts you in such a terrible situation, and the blame game starts. And I didn't want to put my family through that. I didn't want to put my brothers and sisters through that. I didn't want them thinking that if they would have just done one thing, I would still be here. If they would have just done X, Y, Z, I'd still be alive. I didn't want them to ever think that. I didn't want to put that amount of guilt on my family. Now, because this was my second experience in brush with death, I didn't see this the first time around. Like the consequences of what that action is going to actually do in people. And that is the saddest thing that I'm dealing with, is like the consequences of people's actions and how it impacts people that I love and care about. One decision changed what everything meant, and will change what everything meant for the rest of their lives. And it makes me so sad, because leaving here by your own decisions never is the right solution. Ever. You can make one phone call and have somebody from across the world be willing to spend time with you and figure this out and talk through this thing called life. The answer is always connection, not disconnection. I have felt so disconnected during that phase of my life that the continual thoughts of just wanting to die, to be set free from this thing called life, never, ever left me fulfilled. And what I mean by that is, even the idea of it still meant emptiness and brokenness and destruction. Even the idea of it still made me internally feel like this wouldn't even solve the problem, but this is the last solution I have. I really wish that people could understand how precious life is before they make that decision. That they could think through like the beauty of the family that they have. And they could see things from this lens that isn't about themselves. It's about the impact they're going to have on everyone else. But unfortunately, sometimes life doesn't give you that option. And sometimes the cards that you're dealt in life don't leave you with, self-reflective capacity. Sometimes you're in just so much pain that you just want the pain to go away. And if you're out here on the other end of this lens and that's you, I am so grateful and honored that I got to find you through this video. Because I want to encourage you that your life has value and that you're important. And you may not be important to the people that you're currently around, But I can guarantee that if you stick around, that unbelievable things will begin happening in your life. If you're willing to start getting honest with yourself and asking yourself the questions on what is the core of these issues, and then you find community to resolve those issues, I can promise you, you will post 5 years from now on one of my videos, and you'll say something to the effect of, I have a family now, I'm so grateful. Because your life matters and you're important. No matter what goes on in between your ears, I want you to remember that you are important and your life matters. And you don't have to be the person that you are that is completely held down and limited by what you think you are versus who you are. Throughout life, we convince ourselves of what we are instead of who we are. That's a totally another video that I'm expound upon on this channel at some point. But I just want to really encourage you that your life matters. And I know that there's pain and suffering. I've been where you've been, and I've experienced what you've experienced. I've experienced it multiple times in my life. The willingness to let go of life in but a moment. And I wish I could reach through this lens and hear your story and sit down and suffer with you. So I would do that in a second if I had the ability to. So that you could know that there's actually somebody in this world who genuinely cares that you exist. Even if I barely know you, but for a moment. Because of the people, I made a vow, because of the people that stepped into my life. And I got to tell you, I've been given a very beautiful life. I really, really have. And I may not have all the things that this world claims to be of value, but I have learned how to care for people in great suffering because I have suffered greatly. I now can suffer with others. And it makes me genuinely compelled to make these videos. Compelled. Like I go through this procrastination. What am I going to talk about? This, that, the other thing. Who's going to see this thing? All those things still happen in my head, and I don't care anymore. I don't care. I'm going to make the video anyway because it's no longer about me in the destructive, annihilatory things that happen in my mind to try to convince me of who I am based on what's been done to me versus the I am that I am telling me who I am. My identity was wrapped up in trauma and hatred and loneliness and resentment and malice and murderous rage. That is who I used to be. Not anymore. Not anymore. There is a path. It is a narrow path, but there is a path to your future. And you can choose so many different ways to go in this lifetime. However, being able to find who you really are and the identity that's within you, the ability to value yourself in spite of your shortcomings, the ability to be yourself in spite of your shortcomings, and love humans and be loved, that life is worth it, man. That life is worth it. That's the life I have. I look in the mirror these days and I love the person that I've become. Not in some narcissistic egomaniac way, but in this way, like we did it. We did it. We survived. We did it. We made it. And I'm okay with who I am today. I am certainly absurdly far from where I want to be and who I want to be as a person. But thank goodness I'm not the person I once was. I don't have to live my life in shame and self-hatred and self-loathing anymore. I don't have to live my life in depression and anxiety. I am free from those things because I chose to get honest, and I was able to get all the way down to the memories that were the bedrock of those states of being inside of myself and change what those memories meant to me. And if you don't know how to do that, that's okay. I've got all this stuff I'm going to unload on this YouTube channel on how to do that and how I've learned how to do that. I got a coaching program that I'm going to roll out here soon where I help people be able to work through these things. It's part of my dream, you know. There's a lot of this channel. I'm going to be talking about very hard, difficult things. Like this video is talking about discovering the desire to live again in spite of what you've gone through in your life. That's some pretty heavy stuff. But because I have suffered and seen so much tragedy in my life, I now see how to help people get beyond these things. I now see how to help people be willing to heal from what's causing their pain. If you're out there and living one more minute seems like a burden to you and the rest of the world, I would say to you that there are people that love you and care for you, and you may not even be able to see it right now. But that doesn't change the fact that they're there. Find community. Find people that are never going to shame you, criticize you, or judge you. That'll just listen and walk this journey of life with you. And you will find who you really are. Because who you really are isn't the shame and the self-doubt and the self-loathing. That's not who you really are. That's who you were manufactured to be by the environment that you were in. No, that is not who you really are. That's who you're manufactured to be through the pain that you're going through. Your life is worth living. Let's live it.